Hey everybody, what's up? JuubiTaz back with a new video, and this is a special one because today I'll be doing my first in-depth analysis of Bleach. Now don't worry if you're a Naruto fan, I don't plan to stop talking about the Naruto series anytime soon. This is just me expanding the horizons of the JuubiTaz channel, and based off of a recent post I made, it seemed like the most popular series that you folks wanted me to tackle is Bleach, and I just happened to have the perfect topic for that. Now, I will admit that I am not as proficient with Bleach as I am in Naruto, so this is sort of an experiment I'll be pulling off. However, like most of the popular long-running manga series, Bleach also has a large and expansive universe, and its own unique concepts and world building. It's about Shinigami after all, so concepts of life and death and spiritual beings are a lot more frequent, and a lot of it revolves around the Soul Society, the afterlife in the Bleach universe, where both souls and soul reapers reside, which serves as the main narrative hub of the series. Now, I'll admit that at first I was going to tackle the Soul Society as a whole, but then I figured that this may be too ambitious of a goal for my first Bleach video. I mean, even the area of the Soul Society that contains the Serete is just a small section called the East Branch. And considering all the stuff with the Royal Palace and the Soul King, I've decided that I'll just be looking at the inner dynamics of the 13 court guards instead. All of the major actors that come to play and their personal relationships or dynamics with each other. And now, if you enjoy these types of videos, then be sure to hit that subscribe button, and this goes without saying, but major spoilers ahead obviously. Let's get straight to it. Now, before I start, let me quickly point to the contrast between the Naruto world and the Bleach world. I mean, shinobi may be trained killers for hire, but these soul reapers are the entities that come to collect the dead one's soul after the fight's over. So to call them otherworldly is actually very fitting. Now, as for the 13 Gotei, which serve as the main military branch of the Soul Society, their goal is to act as the main line of defense for the Serete, as well as dispatch members to the Soul Society and beyond, sometimes the human world, for certain assignments. They're also the main organization that deals with guiding souls going to the Soul Society, as well as purifying corrupted souls that had turned into hollows. Hollows are deceased human souls that remained in the human world for too long and are usually conflicted with deep feelings of despair or regret. Souls that have been tainted to the extent that they turn into these monsters that devour the souls of both the living and deceased humans. And it is the role of the Soul Reaper or Shinigami to purify the hollows and turn them back into human souls, usually by striking their hollow masks with their Zanpakuto, so that they could finally rest in peace and transcend into the Soul Society. And the 13 court guards were the highest titles in the Shinigami Society. It is believed that the organization was founded by the man known as Genryusai Yamamoto, the would-be leader of Squad 1 and the head captain around 10,000 years before the events of the Soul Society rescue arc. The 13 squad guards was at first a brutal mob consisting of the most dangerous killers in the Serete. They operated in a much more barbaric manner and had little regard for the collateral damage they caused. However, because of that, this generation of the 13 Gotei was considered to be the strongest one, and their fearsome reputation was the reason that they were able to enforce order and defend the Serete. Now, little is known about the first generation of the Gotei 13. All we do know is that they led an extermination campaign that put the Quincy's on the brink of extinction because of a fundamental disagreement between the two. Unlike how the Shinigami turned hollows back to human souls, the Quincy completely destroyed the hollows, including their souls and their reishi. Because of this, Quincy's created an imbalance on the flow of souls between the human world and the Soul Society, which threatened the collapse of all the realms. The Soul Reapers and the Quincy's were just like the Senju and the Uchiha, how they were both sworn enemies or opposing forces. And after the extermination of the Quincy's, the 13 court guards underwent a dramatic change. The more peaceful era that followed had them mellow out their brutal or barbaric ways, and they became soft in comparison to before, which was noted as their downfall by Yuha when the Quincy's invaded and destroyed the Serete in the 1000-year Blood War arc, as their retribution for what the Soul Reapers did in the past. And now, getting back to the 13 captains, the man that was the embodiment of the laws and regulations of the Gotei 13 was the head captain Yamamoto, a stern man that took his duties to heart and had little tolerance for insubordination. He's kinda like those two geezers Koharu and Hamura if they were useful or were actually respectable characters. The head captain was a highly respected figure in the Soul Society. He may have been a strict no-nonsense geezer that didn't bend the rules for anyone, but he was also the founder that created the fabrics of the Soul Society and the Serite, and that's why many of the captains looked up to him, like Squad 8 Captain Shunsui and Squad 13 Captain Joshiro, both of whom were students of the head captain, and were like his sons almost, and they were so familiarized with him that they'd call him Old Man Yama, and felt comfortable enough to confront him about their opposition to Rukia's execution. However, as the head captain, Yamamoto couldn't tolerate anyone bending the rules for their own convenience, and he was going to fight the both of them for what he says was obstructing justice, even if the both were following their own sense of justice by protecting Rukia. To which the head captain said that their individual justice couldn't override global justice. Captain Sajin Komamura of Squad 7 was also very loyal to Yamamoto, to the point that he was ready to put his life on the line to avenge the head captain, as Yamamoto took him into the 13 court guards despite him not being a human soul. Yamamoto also recruited Unohana into the 13 court guards, and she was the only one other than him that was a part of the original 13. Before joining, she was known as the most diabolical criminal to ever exist in the Soul Society, and it's also revealed to us that later in the 1000-year Blood War that she was the first Kenpachi and is the one that laid the foundation for Squad 11. She too shared a deep love for fighting and bloodshed, and she even became proficient in healing in order to extend her fights. And she wandered from place to place in search of something that would please her sword, until she came across the young boy who would eventually be known as Kenpachi Zaraki. Even as a young lad, Kenpachi was a very skilled fighter that defeated most of the opponents he came across, and Unohana finally met someone that could challenge her. She even acknowledged that this boy was stronger than her and that he held back his own abilities so that he could extend the enjoyment of battle, and she saw him as more suited to become Kenpachi. And she may have been right, because Zaraki was a man that was always seeking conflict. It's like he got a high when fighting a strong opponent, and he'd usually limit his own capabilities, like fighting with one arm or one eye, just to experience the full taste of battle. Zaraki and Unohana would also have a battle till the death for the title of the last Kenpachi, in order to get Zaraki to be strong enough against the Quincy's in the Blood War. Unohana had the edge, and she kept fatally striking him and healing him because Zaraki got a massive strength boost when on the brink of death. And by the end, when he struck her and fatally wounded her and she was dying, Kenpachi was left screaming and crying because now he had no one to rival him. Now, due to Zaraki's combat-driven nature, he did not respect all the other 13 captains like Tosen or Kamamura, but he did respect Unohana since she was the first to defeat him and make him experience the thrill of battle, as well as the head captain due to his overwhelming power. Yamamoto also forced Kenpachi to learn kendo because he lacked the formal swordsmanship training, and he only became captain of Squad 11 due to killing the former. However, the head captain was ordered to stop training Zaraki one day in because they were worried that if Kenpachi achieved his full potential and rebelled, that he'd become an unstoppable force. So that shows us how Zaraki's reputation exceeded him. Everyone knew of his depraved and battle-hungry nature, and he didn't hesitate to challenge or clash with the other captains, like when the captain of Squad 12 Mayuri Tsuchi was questioning his subordinate, or when he was egging on the captain of Squad 6 Byakuya Kuchiki about his sister's execution. Kaname Tosen, the captain of Squad 9, saw Captain Zaraki as a monster that served no other purpose than creating chaos that would eventually break the peace of the Soul Society. Meanwhile, Kenpachi saw Tosen as a weakling that feared death. Those two captains had a deep disdain for one another. But it is also rich for Tosen to hold such an opinion about Zaraki given his secret affiliation. Tosen held a grudge against the Soul Society after they failed to hold the murderer of a close friend of his to account. So he secretly allied himself with the captain of Squad 5, Sosuke Aizen. He was also a close friend of Komamura, the both of whom got acquainted with each other in the Spiritual Arts Academy when Sajin used to feel ashamed of his wolf head and hid it underneath his mask. And Tosen was blind, so he didn't judge him like the rest. So you could imagine the disappointment that Sajin felt when he found out about Tosen's betrayal, and how that put them at odds with one another, since Sajin was loyal to the head captain and Kaname was loyal to the polar opposite figure, Aizen. Speaking of Sosuke Aizen, the man that had planned everything as far back as the main character's birth, and is widely considered to be the Madara of his verse, except that he wasn't manipulated by some blob within the shadows. Everything about Aizen is just deceitful. Even his Shikai, the Kyoka Suigetsu, is basically like Genjutsu illusions. So was the persona that he'd fabricated within the Soul Society, pretending to be a kind and caring man that showed concern for Rukia's execution and subtly warned the other captains of the suspicious captain of Squad 3, Gin Ichimaru, when in reality they were both in cahoots with each other, and Aizen was the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. All for an elaborate plan so that he could possess the Hogyoku, so that he could transcend all beings, both Shinigami and Hollows, and challenge the deity known as the Soul King, and become the most powerful being in his verse. That's one stark difference between Madara and Aizen, their end goals, and also the fact that Madara was a pawn of Zetsu's game, while Aizen was never a pawn and was fully in control of his own agenda. He just had to keep his true intentions hidden, and he was able to fool most of the captains. Not every single one. Shinji Hikaru, the man that preceded him as captain of Squad 5, was suspicious of Aizen, and the reason that Shinji chose Aizen to be his lieutenant was so that he could keep an eye on him. However, Aizen revealed that he knew about his captain's distrust of him, and that the Aizen that Shinji was keeping an eye on was just an illusion from his Kyoka Suigetsu. Aizen said that had Shinji been close to him, like the other captains were to their lieutenants, then he may have noticed the subtle differences between the illusionary Aizen and the real one. And at the end of the day, Sosuke exploited his captain's distrust against him. Afterwards, Aizen was able to frame the former captain of Team 12, Kisuke Urahara, of the crime of holification and have him banished to the human world along with the visored, so that no one else that is suspicious of him remained in the Serite, and he could execute his plans at his own discretion. Since then, there were only two other captains that knew of his true goals, those being Tosen and Ichimaru, and Gin in particular was a close subordinate of Aizen. And during the events of the Soul Society arc, prior to faking his death, Sosuke and Gin put on a show for the other captains, all to drift attention onto Gin so that he gets blamed for killing Aizen, just so that they could throw everyone off. Of course, if we look at the long-term events, we'll know that Gin was playing the long game, and that he was never truly allied to Aizen and was awaiting for the right moment to strike him down. He spent ages as his right-hand man, his lieutenant, just to get close to him, just to avenge Rangiku, the lieutenant of Squad 10, for an incident in the past where Aizen and his men hurt her and stole a portion of her soul. Gin did not have great relationships with the other Shinigami, but he deeply cared for Rangiku, and he usually kept her in the dark while he went on and took the difficult tasks by himself. He was the only person that could truly take Aizen by surprise. That's why I believe that he was one of the few captains that Aizen respected in a sense. The others being someone like Kisuke, who Aizen acknowledged was a genius, but he also hated Kisuke to an extent because of Urahara's conforming to the Soul King's authority despite Kisuke's superior intellect. Aizen also respected the head captain Yamamoto's power, and he even created an Arrancar whose sole purpose was to seal away the flames of the head captain's Zanpakuto. However, the rest he didn't think that highly of in general. For example, the captain of the 10th Division, Toshiro Hitsugaya, who Aizen condescends and talks down to on numerous occasions. Hitsugaya's close childhood friend, Momo, was Aizen's former lieutenant, and Aizen's fake death stunt left her so blinded with rage that she even suspected and tried to attack Hitsugaya, her own friend. And when Aizen revealed that he was alive all along, he stabbed Momo, and in general he did her really dirty. And Momo was still so wrapped up in the illusion of Captain Aizen that she begged Toshiro to save him even after his defection, which is why Hitsugaya utterly despised Aizen and gets easily egged on or agitated by him. Toshiro, as the youngest member of the Gotei 13, is respected by the other captains due to his prodigious talent, but he's not necessarily feared or viewed as powerful as Yamamoto or Aizen or Kenpachi. He's also the successor of Ichigo's father Ishin once he decided to leave the Soul Society and live with Ichigo's mother in the human world. And now, going back to Kisuke Urahara, the former captain of Squad 12, turned small convenience shop owner in Karakura Town. Before his banishment, Kisuke ran the Shinigami Research and Development Institute, which was responsible for creating new technology and spiritual tools for the Serete. He may have been laid back on the surface, but Urahara was deceptively cunning, and even Aizen, the master strategist, acknowledged Kisuke as the smarter of the two. Kisuke also had a close relationship with Yoruichi. The two of them were both childhood friends, and Yoruichi was both the captain of the 2nd Squad and the commander of the Stealth Force. And she was the one to recommend Kisuke as the replacement of Kiryu, the captain of Squad 12, after she'd ascended to Squad 0, much to the dismay of her underling, Soifon, who found Kisuke's lazy demeanor to be undisciplined. After having been made captain by a bit, Kisuke went to a prison named the Maggot's Nest to recruit the only prisoner there that was considered dangerous enough that he had to be shackled and confined to a cell, that being Mayuri Kuretsuchi. Kisuke sought Mayuri out due to his genius, and he offered him his vice presidency of the Research and Development Division. And given the resources that would become available for him if he accepted the role, he accepts. And eventually, once Aizen frames Kisuke for the holification of the Shinigami, it was Yoruichi that helped him escape before scolding him about keeping her out of the loop. Yoruichi and Kisuke shared a strong bond, but also a playful yet flirtatious banter. She described Kisuke as a mere honest, handsome, perverted businessman, and she was so loyal that she abandoned her post just to be with Kisuke. After they left to the human world, their subordinates took their place as captains of their respective teams, with Soifon becoming the captain of Squad 2, and Mayuri the captain of Squad 12. Soifon was staunch and unbending when it came to the rules of the Serete, which is why she used to get so irritated by Kisuke's unserious attitude. And she was even more upset with him when he took Yoruichi with him to the human world. Soifon looked up to and was borderline obsessed with Yoruichi, who was her mentor and whom she served loyally in the Stealth Force. And this is the reason why she was so enraged when Yoruichi resurfaced in the Soul Society arc. She felt betrayed by her when she left and wished that Yoruichi wouldn't have abandoned her and may have taken Soifon with her. Now, going to the other replacement, Mayuri Kuretsuchi, who's basically the Orochimaru of the Bleach verse, another mad scientist that is driven by an insatiable and amoral curiosity. He even says that he detests perfection as a scientist, as he views it as a dead end, since there would be no more advancement if one truly achieved perfection. Mayuri didn't idolize Kisuke the same way Soifon did Yoruichi, but viewed him as more of a rival that he wishes to surpass. Now, Mayuri's reputation was a bit like Kenpachi's, or even worse, since he was known to be cruel and sadistic even with his own subordinates. However, as head of research and development, he played a very important role for the Gotei 13, especially when you factor in the 1000-year Blood War arc and his contributions against the Quincy's. Now, someone that is usually seen as more respected, or at least less depraved, is Byakuya Kuchiki, captain of Squad 6. Byakuya is of a prestigious lineage, as his clan is one of the 4 noble families of the Soul Society. The only other noble clan we know is the Shihyong clan, the clan from which Yoruichi originates. And because of that, Byakuya was acquainted with Yoruichi when he was younger. She used to play with and tease the young Byakuya, and she even taught him the step flash technique. She almost had like an elder sister dynamic with him, albeit he did get occasionally annoyed with how she would tease him. And as the head of the Kuchiki family, Byakuya strongly believed in the law and following orders, which is why he didn't show much apathy when his own younger sister Rukia was sentenced to be executed. Because he believed that if someone of his status does not follow the rules, then it would be foolish to expect others to do so. And it's only after his defeat by Ichigo and finding out about Aizen's ruse that he decides to be less stern or absolutist when it came to following the laws. Byakuya also had a bit of a rival relationship with Kenpachi, whom he saw as a savage, which was seen when they both faced Yami in order to see which one of them can take him down first. However, both captains did acknowledge their respective power levels enough to fight alongside each other. Now, this isn't really it for the 13 divisioned Imperial Guards, because they were basically the main force protecting the Serete and the Soul Society. Well, at least after Squad Zero, who were considered the ultimate line of defense for the Royal Guards. Now, since we're already spoiling a lot about Bleach, I think it might be worth mentioning that Shunsui Kyoraku, captain of Squad 8, got promoted to the position of head captain, likely due to his direct mentorship under Yamamoto, but also his seniority, experience, power, and pragmatic leadership skills. He's also one of the more level-headed captains. Chill, knows how to deal with the other captains, and is respected by them as well as a capable Shinigami. There's also several past members of the Gotei 13 that were subjects of Aizen's holification experiments, and who after the incident left for the human world and became members of the visored, a group of outcast soul reapers that acquired hollow powers. I already talked about Shinji Hiraku, captain of Squad 5, but there's also Kensei Mugomura, captain of Squad 9, and Rojiro Otoribashi, captain of Squad 3, all of whom were replaced by Aizen and his men, and all of whom returned to their posts after Aizen's defeat and the Espadas. And now, I think this is as far as I'm gonna go for today. I mean, this is probably long enough for my first full-length Bleach analysis video. And the thing about Bleach is, there's honestly so much lore and so many characters to analyze in the series. Like, we only looked at the captains, but then you also get their lieutenants and squad members, the Arankars, the Quincy's, and a lot more. So if you guys are interested in seeing me make more Bleach videos, like a Waco Mundo Inner Dynamics for example, then be sure to let me know in the comments. And you could also leave a comment about another series that you'd like me to tackle, and I might tackle the ones with the most likes in the future. And now, for all my Naruto peeps, don't worry, I still got some big videos coming for that too. However, why don't you go check out my other videos like the Akatsuki Duo Dynamics in the meantime while you're waiting. And other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.